Hello, hello. Let me just do my one twos. Hello, everyone. My name is Rodney Roberts. I'm the reentry coach at Innocence Project, New York. I'm also an exoneree. I spent 18 years wrongfully in prison in New Jersey. I was exonerated through DNA evidence in 2014 with the help of my pro se litigation and Innocence Project. Since then, I've been working in activism, uh, diligently behind the scenes, helping other families, other exonerees. We're initially working with Seton Hall University uh, and helping bring more greater awareness to what injustice looks like, feels like, and trying to galvanize the people to give the support to the community needed to undo wrongfully in prison and convictions. And as a result of working in the field and being part of different legislation, speaking in front of Senate committees to change laws, lobbying heavily to get more laws and resources for family members of wrong conviction. I was recently hired by the Innocence Project to be the reentry coach with the social work department to help other exonerees, both those who were exonerated through DNA evidence or those who were released by other circumstances with the difficult task of um, reintegrating back into society and understanding the changes and just dealing with the trauma that relates to being wrongfully in prison and spending multiple years in prison. And so, before I tell and go into my own experiences, I just want to thank everyone for uh, and the invite to participate in the third annual uh, JEP Youth Activism Summit. I really haven't heard of it, and I'm very honored because I really support the youth in the community and their activism. So, to give you a little background, what my experiences was with in 1996. Um, I was wrongfully arrested for a crime I didn't commit. I was on my way home from work, same average day. Um, I had just got custody of my son, who was 7 at the time. My life was changed. We had just moved to a nice apartment. Job was going well. And on my way home, I was approached by police and asked where was I, and I just gave them I'm from work. And I was told then that I was charged, I was being accused and identified as a perpetrator in a crime that happened in Newark, New Jersey, where I'm from. I adamantly denied, and look, you got the wrong person. It's not me. And the way they acted, and the approach to me was the same as if, every other young black man who in the community, like I had no credibility. My denial and pleas of innocence went on deaf ears. So I was arrested, accused, and charged. And the charge was for a kidnapping. And so I was crushed. I didn't know what to do. Was first worried about myself, my son, um, what we're going to do. I had responsibilities of picking him up from school, and now everything just crashed. And so, thank God, thankfully, I was able to reach out to my mother and let her know what the situation was. And of course, she jumped into action and made sure my son was taken care of and safe, and let him still by my side through the whole process. I was afraid because obviously my pleas of innocence wasn't being taken serious, and they acted as if they had irrefutable evidence that I was the right person and I was guilty, and they treated me that way with the hostility and the whole process of processing me in the county jail and processing me to be held. And so while in the county jail, now I was like, my world was thrown apart. And so here I am locked up for a crime I did not do. And I don't even know how to explain this. I mean, how does this even happen? And even my mind somewhere sort out, maybe they can figure this out. This is the system, they can't, they're not that broken. So there, in my mind, I always had a glimpse of hope even that this will all be straightened out. And as time went on, weeks went by, maybe 2, 3 weeks went by. And so I've seen a public defender. I had no money for a private attorney, nor did my family at that time. We couldn't afford private counsel. So we had to use the court-appointed counsel. So he came to visit. I told him, I'm innocent. What's going on? How could they do this to me? I'm very upset. I mean, I'm as I should be. And I'm trying to convince him and let him know, look, I need your help. He made the promise that he would help me and that he would do whatever he can. And in the process of, as a public defender, him seeing me, he also had like 20 other clients that he had to interview that very morning. So his caseload was very overwhelming, but he had to see everyone. So in our conversation, I felt like I was just part of an assembly line. Like he was just coming to see me, ask a few questions, and move on to the next client so that he can minimize the work in his day. So I took his word. Look, I need help. He said he would do what he can. So a week go by, 2 weeks go by, a month go by, 3 months go by, 5 months go by. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know, I'm trying to just survive, just eat, do what I had to do, keep my hygiene, just try to understand what I'm going through. And so I'm no seeing no one, let my family, worrying my family, stress, they just can't understand how an innocent person could be locked up. I mean, what happened? So, but my mother was like, baby, I'm here. And so maybe 6 months went by. And I seen another public defender. This was a different guy. I'm like, hey, what happened to the last guy? He was like, well, I don't know who you're talking about, but I'm here today. And I read your case, and this is what we're going. So if you read my case, you know that I'm innocent. He said, he made it clear, I am going to do my best to clear your name. Give me some time. Thank you. In the meantime, could you send me whatever paperwork, police reports that I may have? Okay. 7 months now, 8 months went by, 12 months went by. I was almost a year. I haven't seen anyone. I am feeling isolated. I'm scared. I'm feeling depression seeping in. I'm feeling a sense of hopelessness, powerlessness. I feel like I'm in this inhumane environment, and that's how I felt and looked. And I just felt like my world was crashing down, and it was nothing I could do, and all I could do was pray, and that's all I felt I had available to me. My son, I was stressed so hard about my son, my family stressed out, and so they called me one day, a year and a half go by. Roberts got caught today. I didn't even know till that morning, but that didn't matter. I almost broke my leg trying to get to that courtroom. So when I get to the courtroom, I meet a third public defender. Now this is another guy, and he's saying, "Look," I said, "What about look?" He's more polished. He's more professional. He's the same way as other public defender. He had myself and maybe 30 other clients he had to see. So he was in rush mode. But he was in rush mode with a very serious matter because he came before I could even really explain to him and tell him how innocent, tell him my heart, look, I'm innocent. I got to get out of here. I'm panicked. I'm not holding, I need out. I need my freedom. His conversation to me was, I spoke with the prosecutor. They have the victim is ready to testify. If they're offering you a plea agreement, I'm like, plea agreement? I'm ready to jump through the bars. Like we had the prison bar. I'm talking to him holding the prison bars in the cell. He said, What are you talking about? I'm innocent. You talking plea agreement, you a prosecutor, talking who you work for. Look, Mr. Roberts, he explained to me. He said, these are very serious charges. They ready to give you life. Oh, you talking about life in jail for something I ain't do? Look, and they could prove your guilt. They got the victim. I mean, this was the lawyer telling me this. The one person I trusted to help me was the person telling me that the only way to save my life was to take this plea agreement they offered me. The plea agreement was 7 years. I'll be home in 2 years. They would dismiss multiple charges, downgrade the charges. I will be home and it reflect on my record that no one got hurt. Because other than that, they ready to go to trial. And they ready to give you life. I'm like, life, man, you talking about plea, I'm innocent. I'm like, yo, how is this possible? I couldn't understand what was going on in my world. Just falling apart like this. I didn't want to be locked up for something I didn't do for life. I didn't want to be away from my son like that. And I was faced with an ordeal of pressure and coercion. And I had to make this decision in like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's a life-changing decision in like 20, 25 minutes to plead guilty to something I didn't do or go to trial and possibly lose because they proved to me they can lock me up because I was locked up all the time already. So that was not even an option. So I had to make a decision that really broke my heart to me because I felt that I had to save myself. I felt this is crazy. I'm already in here. How could I do? Well, I did not do it, but I cannot be in here for the rest of my life. I'm looking around. I'm crying. I'm hurting. I'm like, yo, I could just call my mother or call somebody to help me out in this moment. I'm isolated. I'm feeling again almost powerless. Like I had no control of my rights, but they already been violated because I'm innocent. So they didn't care about my rights. So trial, I didn't feel I had any chance there to get out, to help myself, my son. So I felt like I had to choose between Lucifer and Satan, which was the lesser of the evils that be better to my life. So for everything against myself forever, I pled guilty to the crime I had committed. I felt like that was the only way to save me. I felt like if I didn't do this, I was gonna be gone forever, and that's what they was telling me. So I took the plea agreement. I often took me a while in because I felt like I betrayed myself. I felt like so I had to wrestle with that feeling for years after that. And in the course of that, when I went in front of the judge to plead guilty, they wasn't really concerned about anything other than the process of the wheel spinning. Oh, you're gonna plead guilty? Okay. Now we don't have to worry about trial. Now we don't have to pick jury. Now we bring them in, I go in front of the judge. All I have to say is just a little bit, just make sure that I've made the plea intelligently. Judge was satisfied with me just saying the bare minimum. He didn't even want to even go into the process. Yes, I accept the guilty plea. I'm sitting there like with tears in my eyes, like, wow, y'all just doing me dirty. I go in. Probably dealing with that. But I feel like I gotta recover from what can I do now? So I'm sent to state prison as a result for 7 years. So when I get to state prison, I say to them, when they try to assign me housing and everything, I said, no, I really didn't do any of this. I just pled guilty. This I said to a big committee who make the decisions in the prison system where you house at, your status level, if you can go work release, what's your job assignment, how will you be evaluated within the prison system? You have to go in front of this big classification committee. So I said to them, I'm innocent. I really just pled guilty because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life. When I said that, they were saying, you pled guilty, now you stand in front of us saying administrative body saying that you innocent. I said, well, yeah, I'm innocent. I really didn't do any of it, which is the truth. After that, my prison experience became like one of the worst prison experiences that I could have, because then I would deny access to all type of opportunities for release and work leads, and because I now said I'm innocent, which was the truth. So when I went to parole, they denied me. I went to parole in 2 years, they denied me. I went to parole again in 5 years, they denied me. I had wound up serving the whole 7-year term because I now would not say I committed the crimes that they had on record. So they gave me parole. They said I was denied. They said I was believing a delusion, that I was believing my own lies, that I was a risk to the community because I couldn't take responsibility and show any remorse. And so I was forced to serve the full 7 sentence. And because after one of the charges in the case early on was sexual related. And as a result, because I said I didn't do it, and because they wouldn't give me parole, New Jersey, state New Jersey, had created these laws where they would put you in a civil commitment until you were able, they felt you were no longer a danger to society. I at that time in my life, in no time, did I fit any of that criteria. You know what I'm saying? I never thought that something like that would happen to me. Somebody who loved my mother and raised my 6 sisters and raised to protect my family and my sisters and my loved one, my God. So I'm sitting there and I sat for 10 years in that facility because I would not admit guilt. Did I maintain my innocence? But in the process of that time, I studied law. Process that time, I was able to start becoming more vocal about my rights. In the process of fighting for my innocence, I had to get out of this facility. I was able to communicate better to an attorney. So I told the attorney, look, I'm innocent. I didn't do any of this. The victim said he identified me, said she started crying. So the public defender, who I felt was one of the greatest guys I ever met in my life, he took a chance and he went and investigated my case. He went and found the victim and went to interview, took my picture. The victim told him, I never seen that guy a day in my life. I don't know who that is. He's like, wait a minute. This guy just been in prison for a crime against you. She said, that's not him. I don't know who this is. In fact, she didn't even know anyone was arrested for the crime. In fact, she never even made an identification. So all the police reports were fabricated. But once she learned what was happening to me and that the wrong man was incarcerated, and somewhere out there was the guy who did it still, she became my advocate. She became what I regard her as my champion because the victim was telling them that's not the guy. She would come to the courts. We asked for a hearing. That's not him. He's not the guy. Why are you holding this innocent guy? The guy's still running around. When the victim started advocating, becoming my activist, then the courts and started looking at the situation differently with me. Then I start asking, hey, can I get the DNA? Could any DNA? Is there any possibility? There was no objections. DNA tests were taken, and as a result, it was proven of my innocence. I was excluded for all counts and completely exonerated. And from that, I knew already. But in the process of that, going through all that, it was always my mother and my family. And they were the activists that sparked me. The reason I continue to come home to be an activist and fight in the forefront and fight for other people's rights and use my voice and experience and things that happened to me, my testimony, it's for what I saw, the sacrifices that was made for me by my mother and other people who love me. Coming in that prison, going through the metal detectors, being searched, put in the courtroom. They kicked my mother out of the courtroom like 3 times because she would not be quiet. Not my boy, I know who I raised. Ms. Roberts, you burst out again, you gotta go. She couldn't say nothing about me. And that fight and that energy and that love and that seeing that all the years, Even when I was exonerated, the day the judge had me in the court, exonerated, telling me, Mr. Roberts, DNA proves you innocent. Well, we're so sorry this happened to you. I had a courtroom full of my family, my mother, my sisters, my cousins. So when the judge said, I will vacate your conviction, you are innocent, they jump up in the back. Praise the Lord. I knew it. Praise the Lord. He free. I thought they was having church back then. I thought I would turn around and probably see somebody rolling on the ground because they was celebrating because it was their victory too. It was their vindication too, because for years they would not, no, we believe in his innocence, and they could not discourage them. And when I was proving it, and that's when I tears start crying because I tried to be a watch, I tried to be thug. I couldn't, because it was their celebration. And it was because of that energy, hearing my family celebrate, knowing what the relief was about, knowing what they went through because their loved one was locked up. And their advocacy, showing up in court, standing out in front of the court, all going to the news, doing everything, is what inspires me today. And since my release, I sort of tell everybody, I love the sound of hearing families celebrate. I love being a part of, in advocacy, through the criminal justice system, seeking reform, particularly in a plea agreement process, which I think is one of the most horrible process in the criminal justice system, and which is the breakdown of the criminal justice system, because the plea agreement doesn't exist in the Constitution anyway. But feeling that energy is what the activism is about, and that's what the energy we have to attach to, knowing when there's a wrong, knowing when there's a need for a change or a challenge, and not being afraid of that challenge, and knowing that in your heart, you know that this is not right. And this is what the information I have, this is the resources I have, this is the statistics I have, this is the voices I have to make that and be bold with it. And that's an energy you gotta tap, and not to be afraid to be different or afraid to stand up against the masses. If you feel that the masses are wrong in that way, that's how change comes. That's how ideas grow, from that being united with a group of people with that energy that feed that. And the energy, the youth are the energy. Your voices and your strength, you are the energy. And that, having a united stance in advocacy, harnessing that power, has the potential of great change, because most in society think, oh, you're young, you don't know, older, oh, you got a lot to live. When it's not even like that anymore. Because since I came home in 2014, it has been the youth who's helped me grow. Because when I came home, the phone was smarter. When I left, the phone like a shoe. That alone, when I got on the phone, got an iPhone, when it made noise, I thought I broke it. Oh, I broke it. I didn't understand the technology advance in 18 years of teenage life. And it was you who helped me understand the need to catch up. He was patient with me. My niece, who was 11 years old, showed me how to use an iPhone. Like I was in class. Like, the only thing I didn't like is when it rang, it like played like a Powerpuff Girl song. And I was on a bus when it happened. So I had to really learn how to change that. So, but she was my instructor. And it was the youth that gave me the vision, because I haven't gone. And now this whole generation is strong, like brilliant, but not being given the platforms because of their age. And so I always had a thing for that. I spoke at a school in Manhattan, a youth program, but they were studying science. And I went to the high schools, a science high school, to speak, and I got blown away, because by the time I left, I was so much smarter than when I came. I thought I was going to be in there. Till I left, I was answering questions at other places, like, wow, I know what this type of forensics or this type of, so it's been a ride experience for me, and I love being linked to that energy, because if there's any way to harness it, any way to help organize it, and what the Innocent Project does is we look at that positive energy and that activist, to be an activist in the activism, and hoping that in the future you come to the Innocent Project for internship or volunteer or come in a, see an issue that they're a part of and come be a voice at a rally or come be a voice in some particular situation. And those are the opportunities available through the Innocent Project. That there's a platform and a welcoming mat for the youth to come be a part of the Innocent Project advocacy, because it was founded in 1992 by Peter Neufeld and Barry Scheck, and they're visionary lawyers. And since 1992, the Innocence Project has grown globally, and you can't grow globally without the voice of the youth, because the youth, the good lawyers today, scientists today will work once the young minds of then, and now today through constant opportunity, those lawyers, those scientists, those investigators, those paralegals, those social workers, and now the staff that make up the this force that now fights for the release the wrongful in prison, to change legislation globally, to fight on the forefront to bring better conditions for those that have served injustice, and to be advocates for different platforms from that beginning. And so, as a reentry coach today, and also someone who survived being wrongfully in prison, and understand the pain that comes with that, understand the hurt that comes with that, understand the hurt that comes with the family with that, and understand the recovery, understand there's not overism. Is that a word? Is not overism? Anyway, so understand that is, and to be able to come home and achieve a goal and to be part of such and so monumental, to make such big changes, and also contribute on whatever I have and the passion I have, is what this is about today. And as an activist, speaking to fellow activists, understanding that what we have to do and what is need to be done, and to be part of these summits and to be involved in these summits, and to learn from these summits, to be part of an organization that helps develop you and provides resources. It's what it is. It's what helps you provide a greater service amongst your colleagues in your network, from learning, from training, from learning together. And love these summits, because this is what part of the growth process. So from this, you could take this information and the unity and the energy out to the people. You could challenge human justice. You'll understand what that challenge looks like. You'll have more detail on how to organize that challenge. You'll have an understanding of the resources and the people you could call on in beginning of creating a movement or being a part of a movement that you believe is wrong, that you believe is unjust. And me being a part of the summit and being able to contribute the movement of the Innocent Project, and being able to show how someone else who was a victim of injustice, as a victim of the system, and this unique opportunity to talk to you and ask for future victims that made the system is going to continue, that you not let your voice be softened. You not let your activism be distinguished. You continue to want to learn and be a part of the solution. And so all I'll say is that have fun. Have fun. But take some of the resources with you back to your families and community. And so at this point, I would like to know if there's any questions.
We just wanted to thank you so much for your presentation. All your words are so motivating, and just the way that you spoke about your experiences really touched all of us. And I wanted to relay a question from the chat. So what, according to you, is the role of youth activism in increasing efforts against poverty, hunger, and social inequality? And another question kind of is, what is the role of governments and authorities in encouraging youth activism?
Well, crime is related to poverty. And to fight in advocacy, those changes with the youth role, for my opinion, and my idealism, and my assessment of what I see is that to carve out what you want to see a part of with the potentiality of 5 years from now, a change that may not occur in your generation overnight, but to carve out and spark a movement that will help your generation 5 years from now, when you're going to need that seat or down the line, to take on that type of initiative in the struggle against poverty, to ask for changes vocally and get behind platforms that are in the process of changing the crime and community now, and so that your voice will resonate and grow in the struggle of it. And then when the pivotal time for change, you already have a stronghold and a foundation in the fight, in the movement. That's something that I encourage you to do today in any movement. Invest in your movement long term as well as short term in the fight, and organize like under that banner, and change will occur because you set it in motion and you nurtured that motion. And that's what I see the contribution, just to have a platform, have an idea of this platform, what you want to fight for, and push, whether it be advocacy, political advocacy, legal advocacy, social advocacy. Just push further, start to push, and nurture that push. And the second part of the question, what was the second part?
The second part of the question was, what role of governments and authorities in encouraging youth activism? What is a role of government and authorities when encouraging youth activism? And this was asked by Shmuel.
Okay, well, there are a lot of programs available that already sponsor and encourage youth advocacy and activism. There's actually a big recognition in that part from government and law, and the goal would be more to provide finance and resources, and the government role should be in seeing a movement such as this movement to help foster its growth through grants, different grants, different resources, different opportunities to, like I said, to foster the growth of an organization that's so prominent as a youth organization that has the summits, because that's what we need, the youth to come together under this banner. So the government directly can't come in. They're not going to come in because they can't control the voices. Because you still have your First Amendment right, and you still have your rights to feel, say, and march on what platform you want to march. But the government role should not be non-intrusive in a way that blocks or harbor or prohibit any voice or activism. Just a contribution to the growth of it through the finance, through the grants, through those ways to help. That's the government role, in my view. And those programs are available. There's opportunities for grants. I'm sure you know this already. Opportunities for investors, opportunities for all to come in and get involved. And that's the government's role. And there are also voices that look at the youth who don't give the youth their validation. And there is a group, a segment of society that continues to want to hold on to that mindset that you're not a grown-up, you're not an adult, you're not ready for that kind of responsibility. You're not, well, you're still young, you don't understand the world, and that's still a part that wants to continue that mindset. And that's where you coming at. And that's to challenge that and to show and to be those voices that challenge that part of society and community and wants to continue to keep placism more than anything. That this is you stay there, this is where you're at. This is where we do this. These are grown-up matters. Well, you're not doing a good job at it. Maybe somebody should step in. And so,
Yeah, kind of from that thing you just said, moving on to this other question that we just got, given all the issues that our generation has to confront, criminal justice, climate change, etc., how do you think youth should choose what they focus their energy fighting for? And this is from Gia.
Okay. There's such a wide range of things to fight for, and especially when it comes to the youth movement, because you're the future. So much because the world, you are the next generation. I don't know what Generation Z means. I didn't know we got the Z already. Where's the Z? So, maybe because I was in Generation X. So what was next coming? And so, so it's the idea of fighting for the youth today is the control of things. Things are being read, because I have on that question and on an earlier topic of AI and things are being released that could change the world and your youth and your timeline. The fight is against those things that are going to affect you and your future long term. Like one of the issues I have, and one of the issues I was talking to with a group of young ladies, they were like 18 and they was coming from school and college. And I remember me from speaking in one of their classes, and they would talk about the release of AI, artificial intelligence, and they were talking about how they were able to just reproduce voices and images that you couldn't even tell the difference. And they would listen to a speech from someone from back in the 50s, and they had oriented as if it was just today. And we were talking about the unregulated use of this information, where you could go right online and learn how to copy a person's voice and image and use it any way you want without any restrictions or any policies or anything that protects a person's image. And so those are great issues for right now for the youth, because with such unregulated potential knowledge, information released to society unmonitored, it could be a whole nother you somewhere, and you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. And that's an issue of today that, I'll speak as an adult, but if I could go back in time and know what I know now, that would be something on my plate, to be able to protect that and have asked that Senate and those regulatory committees monitor that more and not just release it, because it's going to change the world. And it's already in the process of doing that. And I think that's a whole movement for the youth to look at how is information distributed and in what way that is going to affect your future.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I mean, especially with the huge use of technology nowadays. I mean, this entire summit is virtually hosted, so hosting and focusing on those kinds of issues are extremely important. And I think more central to your cause as well, kind of ending off this session, we also want to ask specifically our youth in our audience here today, how can they get involved with you in helping the Innocence Project?
Well, Innocence Project always open for volunteers. You could go on Innocence Project .org, and the Innocence Project always has we have different youth related movements, not only in New York, but every worldwide or statewide as well. And just to advocate And just to understand that what the Innocence Project does is a very serious fight in the community and in society to try to fight, and even the odds of the innocent remaining in prison, someone who did not do anything. Like, it can happen to anyone. And to balance the odds when the prosecutor office has all the evidence, allegedly, and that the system seems so overwhelming and frightening to someone who doesn't have the resources or the money or the knowledge of law, and how they come in and is as David versus Goliath. Then the project comes in as David to fight against a criminal justice system that is entrenched in the world and gets it wrong so much over and over and so much. And in that quest and in that part of advocacy, you're always welcome. Any youth, the youth is always a part of that already. And so if you want to reach out to the Innocence Project, you can reach out to myself, R. Roberts, at innocenceproject.org, or just call intake or any department and share your information, ask questions, and you'll get much more information from those parties than I'll probably provide. So reach out, go online, just see what it's about, and see what's available for you, and see what role you could think you could fit in, because really your choice, what you think your strengths is. You get in there and throw your 1-2s, and I would love to see a movement or see some of the youth coming through the Innocence Project on a tour and just being happy. Hey, so come just see what it's about. That's really much what it boils down to. And any state you're in, if there's an Innocence Project, reach out.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us today. I think I speak for most everyone here when I say that this is one of the best keynotes I've heard ever. So thank you so much for starting off our summit. And thank you so much for speaking to everyone today.
Thank you, and thank everyone. Have fun. All right.
We will do. And be sure to check out the link Audrey sent in chat to volunteer with the Innocence Project. And thank you to our participants for sending in questions. Gia and Shmuel, thank you.